Om Vang me manasi pratisthita mano me vachi pratishthitam Aviravirma edhi Vedasyama anistha Shrutam me ma prahasihi Anena dhitena Horatran sandadhami Ritam vadishyami Satyam vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadvaktaramavatu Avatu mam Avatu vaktaram Avatu vaktaram Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, here we are. Devasas tva varuna mitro aryama samdutam pratnam indhate vishvam so agne jayati tvaya dhanam yaste dadashamartiyah. Sorry. The gods, even Varuna and Mitra and Aryaman, light thee utterly, the ancient messenger. All wealth that mortal conquers by thee, O Agni, who to thee has given. This is Sri Aurobindo's translation. And my interpretation is a bit different. The gods, such as the guardians of the supreme light, Varuna, Mitra, and Aryaman, also kindle you as their ancient messenger. It is only with you that mortal who has surrendered himself to you can conquer all the riches. It's a bit kind of different emphasis on the same text. I don't consider my interpretation to be translation. It's more an explanation of some kind. So you don't need to take it literally. But it is following totally the grammar and the keys given by Sri Aurobindo. There's nothing which is not from the text. So Devasah, the gods, Tva, you, Varuna, Mitra, Aryaman, these are three great godheads of the purity and vastness of the divine being, Mitra of the luminosity of the divine consciousness and harmony, Aryaman of the divine power, Samdutam Pratnam Indhate, Sam Indhate, they totally or perfectly kindle Pratnam, the ancient one, the ancient messenger, Dutam. Why he is ancient? Because he was from the beginning of creation. Yes, the whole evolution starts with Agni flaming in the darkness of the inconscient. It is he who is the immortal among mortals. It is because of him everything evolves and seeks a higher and higher status of consciousness. This movement forward, upward, is Agni within the darkness. The flame of the divine will. The first avatar, the Son of Rudra. Rudra is the one who on his shoulders holds the whole nature, and his son is that outburst, flaming out of the energy into the darkness and cleaving the darkness, piercing it with light and power of the divine will, moving higher and higher towards the divine fulfillment. So that ancient one, the one who from the beginning, the original will, they perfectly, totally kindle. So who are these? These are the transcendental godheads of Sat, Chit, Tapas. These are Sat, Chit, Tapas, and Ananda is not mentioned here, but these are the guardians of light. Aurobindo has the whole article in The Secret of the Veda, the guardians of light, where he writes about these four, Varuna, Mitra, Aryaman, and Bhaga. Vishvam so agne jayati tvaya dhanam. Vishvam dhanam, the universal wealth, all the wealth. He, jayati, he conquers. With your help, O Agni, Tvaya, or by you he conquers all the wealth in the universe, let us say it literally. Yaste, who to you Dadasha surrenders. So there is this word in the Veda, Dashu, Dashu she, to the giver of oneself. Or it's from root dash, to give. It's kindred root of da, to give. And even dasa from here, the dividing, but the emphasis in dasyu, in all this dasa deity, is made on the division rather than on self-giving. And here the dasha, who gives, te, to you, yach, who gives to you, martiach, the mortal who he gives himself to you. Yes, Kinshuk.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask you, uh, does Dashushe have a sense of burning something, of 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 kind of burning it to ashes?
Dash, no. Burning is, there is another damsh, to bite, interesting, but not to burn. Dah is to burn.
Okay,
Dahati.
okay,
Maybe
okay,
kindred
okay.
also, because the splitting is always kind of causing something, that change, which can be associated with even burning in a way.
So Dashushe is neither not burning, not purification. I was understanding wrongly, so I was probably wrong about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yadanga dashu shetuvam bhadre.
Yes, 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 exactly,
So
exactly.
that bhadram which you want to do for the one who gives oneself, who surrenders.
Okay,
Aurobindo always translates Dadasha as the one who has given, but what he has given, there is no direct object. And in that sense, who has given everything, himself, whatever he has, yes, he surrendered it to the divine.
okay, okay.
There
Thanks,
is only,
Vladimir. There was
yeah,
a confusion in my mind. Yeah. Okay.
there is only one way to reach the divine, is to give oneself to the divine and to give everything to the divine we have. There's no other way to get to. So it's a very simple idea which does not need to kind of explanation in the Vedic mind. When they see this word dashu, they immediately understand, oh, the giving. The giving means self-giving, giving everything what you have, separating part of oneself and giving to the divine energy and consciousness.
Okay. Thank you, Vladimir.
Yeah, yeah. Separation is also an interesting thing. We spoke about Rudra not once. In the Vedas, Rudra has a meaning of sacrificing. Many times, yeah, even Taittiriya, Yoma dadati saideva mavaha, who gives me, yeah, he is nourishing me, increasing me. So what does it mean, gives me? Not to me, who gives me as an object. That means who surrenders me, he increases me. Every surrender, every self-giving is actually asserting oneself, increasing oneself in the divine properties. We just don't see it. Yeah, we think that accumulation is helpful. It's just the opposite. It's self-giving is the increase of power and capacity. The whole nature lives like this. It gives itself and it
So,
grows.
so sacrifice would mean a kind of separation also. Uh, is
Separation from the ego, yes, perception, from this kind of holding to oneself as if that is the meaning of life. Separation, cutting and giving some and cutting and giving
yes,
implies that's why Rudra has also meaning of cutting.
yes,
Um,
yes,
uh, implies that you give something which is you and not something else. You don't give something which does not belong to you, which is not you.
okay,
Giving
okay,
is only when it's part of yourself is given, really. That's why cutting is implied.
okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, yes, Dad.
Two questions on Agni. First, Agni is called the youngest of the gods, but here he's Pratna,
Yes.
so it's the ancient. So is that the ancient is also eternally new?
Yeah. It's interesting that what you brought forward. It is a constant, for the Vedic rishis, there is no contradiction here.
Mhm,
He is the original, the ancient, and ever young. Yeah? And there
mhm,
is no issue here for them. They don't feel that there is a contradiction. For the mind, yes, but for the experience, it is so. They also address the dawn in the same way. Yeah? Purani Yuvatih,
mhm,
the ancient, ever young.
mhm,
She's always ancient, is always ever young, yeah?
mhm.
Fresh, and fresh from the beginning, and always young.
Okay. The second question is, does Aurobindo equate Agni with a psychic being?
It's an interesting question, yes, and difficult to answer in simple way, yes or no. Um, in other, in some places in the letters, he speaks about this, as you know. Some people asked him, "Is it a psychic being?" But it seems that we all speak about Agni as psychic being, yeah?
Mhm,
Because it's easier for us to speak that way. Kiri Joshi speaks immediately, straightforward about Agni as a psychic being. But Sri Aurobindo does not say that. He says in the Veda, the devatas are of universal nature. If we speak about psychic being as individual flame,
mhm,
it's a bit different than the universal flame. Yeah? So let us say Agni is the psychic presence in nature. Then we can maybe find the kind of reconciliation between two
mhm,
views. And we spoke about two flames. One is in nature, another is kindled in the heart. Yeah? And
mhm,
that kindled in the heart of man is the psychic flame. But in the nature, there is another flame, the psychic presence, as Mother says, and the psychic being appears only later in the long period of process of evolution of
mhm,
consciousness. And actually, in the Vedas, Satprem was raising this question with the mother, and there are footnotes there where he speaks about this in the footnote that there is no psychic being in the Veda. And this was a very, interesting topic to discuss. Why? Because the psychic being came later in the evolution
mhm,
as being, as individualized perception, as bhakti, as love. Even in esoteric history, they consider that the first time this love and bhakti was brought forward by Rama. Rama was first who brought that love, and we see it in Ramayana, yes?
mhm,
How Dasharatha loves Rama, how Sita loves Rama, Lakshmana, this love relations. This love relations was never there before in that form. You can't find it in the Upanishads. There is no love of that type of bhakti. You will not find it in the RigVeda. You will not see this bhakti. It's more formidable spiritual achievement, realization, immortality, and God's movement forward, but not this type of love relations. Yeah? It comes later with the formation of the psychic being. That's what I wanted to say.
So you're talking about individual love from one individual to another,
Right.
and not just loving the universal.
Yes, it's not that love, I love the divine, and that's it. It's that love is there in the Upanishads and everywhere. But the love towards another being in that way, as Dasharatha loved Rama, that he died from the longing towards Rama. Yes? He was telling this to Kaikeyi that he will die if Rama leaves. Kaikeyi didn't want to listen to him, and it was his beloved wife. What a tragedy.
Because understanding the psychic being as that which gives the ability for one individual to love another is quite different from the understanding I had, where it's more of a divine guidance tailored to the individual.
No, the formation of the individual entity which is loving. That is, and bhakti movement comes later in the Indian history, spiritual history. We see it only in Mirabai, Kabir. It comes much later, 500 years back, 1,000 years back, so to say.
But that's,
but
500
not
years.
6,000 years back, no.
Yeah, because, are you talking about Rama is 6,000 years?
Yes, but it is first time was brought this notion which was not there before in that form. It's in esoteric history. I'm speaking some gibberish now, something which is provoking thought. It's not the fact, established fact, nothing of the kind. But what Mother says also confirms this very interestingly. They ask her, did Vedic Rishi know about the presence in the heart, the divine presence in the heart? And she says, no, they didn't, but they discovered it. And this makes me think that shift, that shift from the Agni, which is everywhere in nature doing its work as tapasya. Tapasvin is not love, has nothing to do with love. It's a willpower which manifests and realizes things. And there are all these ancient tapasvins doing their tapasya. By tapasya, you can achieve everything. Because fire is there in nature. If you concentrate, you can be anything, anybody. You can become whatever you want to become because of this fire there. But that shift towards bhakti and love towards the divine in the heart appeared later. And we see this shift in every religion all over the world. Yeah, we spoke about Abraham trying to consecrate, to sacrifice his son, and that was the old ways of offering the nature's tapasya to the divine. Whatever physical, vital, mental nature was offered, all the sacrifices, Purusha Medha, Ashvamedha, all these sacrifices were nature sacrifices, tapasya sacrifices. And then he hears the voice, no, I don't want the body of your son. Bring me a pure lamb. And this is a symbolic indication of pure lamb as the psychic entity, as psychic love in the heart. I don't need your tapasya. I need your dedication in the heart. And this is a very big shift.
That's a beautiful reinterpretation of that biblical story. Is that from Mother?
And not really, but when it's rather in the symbolism of the lamb, pure lamb, and Jesus was a lamb, the divine lamb. If you look into all of it, yeah, and actually even in the Vedic vision, Aja is the carrier of Agni. He is the
Aja being the
yes,
lamb.
the vehicle, the lamb. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the lamb was always that innocent, pure being, and he specifically says, "Bring me pure white lamb with no black spot." That means something. Yeah, it is a symbolic, language, definitely.
Pure self-surrender.
Yeah, and that indicates that the formation of this kind of psychic entity came later in time and was discovered and was formed, and it is quite obvious from the point of view of the whole evolution of consciousness that this individualization takes place later. And Mother speaks about this. It takes a long time for the psychic being to be fully formed and to come to the front.
Yeah, I'm surprised to hear that Rama brought the personal love, because I understand Sri Aurobindo said that Rama
Yes, he
sort of
said something
activated.
else. Yes.
Yeah, about the mind. Rama represents
Brought the mind. Yes.
Brought the mind, and Krishna said, "Go beyond the mind." I mean, he didn't say it, but his effect from coming to Earth was to enliven or to go beyond mind, sarva dharman parityaja, beyond dharma, which is a mental concept. So now we leave the dharma behind.
Rama brought many things, and of course he brought the order, he brought the whole, trust in the state and order and everything. And because of that, Sri Aurobindo says about the mind, because there is another big portion of which was established with Rama. But at the same time, in the esoteric history, which is not Sri Aurobindo, it's something else, especially those, Christian mystics and so on, they are looking into what happened and how the shift took place from one mythology to another, from one cult of Purusha sacrifice of nature, to the love towards the divine and surrender. And between these two, we spoke about this not once, there is really a big difference. Yeah, there is one path of the tapasvin, so the path of the baby monkey, as the Ramakrishna was telling us, and the baby cat surrendering totally. And this surrender is possible only with the flame in the heart. Otherwise, tapasya. Tapasvin, with his effort, with his own power, he refuses everything, rejects all obstacles, and he concentrates on only what he wants. And you can achieve anything. Then Shiva comes to you and gives you a gift. That's how Ravana got it. Anybody can get the gift by tapasya, whatever he wants to achieve.
The flame in the heart of tapasya is quite different from the flame in the heart or in the psychic being.
Yeah, there is no tapasya in the heart. The only love. There is no tapasya. There is no effort. It's aspiration. It's totally different. It's opposite to the effort. And that's why Mother says between these two, the baby cat and baby monkey, there is, they don't go together somehow. Either you are tapasvin or you are surrendering. And both are flame or both are Agni. That's the interesting part. So you see how long I'm answering this kind of question. Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah, it reminds me of Hanuman. the kind of love he had for Sri Ram.
Yeah.
They say, like, no, even Saturn wanted, it affects everybody. It couldn't do anything to Hanuman because the ego self was not there. And he had completely, what is that love called? I mean, like, he was not there. The individual I was not there. And it was a vastness of Rama there inside.
Yeah, and when Hanuman was offered to go with Rama to heaven, he refused. It's amazing. And there is something to think of it, why he refused. Yeah, because the love for Rama was so intense, and that is psychic love, and it requires embodiment. It requires to be here in the embodied state. If you go away from that embodied state, you just dissolve yourself. You don't have that intensity of love. So in some way, Hanuman was a bit selfish. He wanted to keep that love for the divine and to enjoy, because that joy is totally beyond wildest, wishes. Mother gave once Durga to try, the psychic being I was already mentioning. Yeah? And because the gods do not have that love towards the divine, towards the supreme. So when she tried the psychic being of the mother, she felt for the first time love towards the divine, and she said, from now on, I am Bhakta of the supreme. Because the delight is so intense of that love. So, of course, Hanuman didn't want to get rid of it. He wanted to have it always. And he said, I will wait here for you till you come next time on earth.
So did Hanuman, like, he did not go for moksha or oneness with the larger, like for the larger union, and he chose to be with a psychic being in that case, is it?
Yes, absolutely. Mukti for him is nothing. In comparison to this awakening in the psychic, that love is all fulfilling. You don't need mukti anymore. This is mukti. This is a real mukti in the body. Yeah, that's another big question. Why somehow this psychic awakening was not kind of so prominent. And I put this question many times, why it wasn't so prominent in the whole Indian tradition. More mukti, more nirvana, more samadhi. All these forms are very different from the awakening of the psychic. And then I thought, and all these siddhis, and tapasya and so on, because there are too many realizations, spiritual realizations. The spiritual history is very rich. And so the psychic, this Angushthamatra Purusha, or, this Chaitya or Antaryamin is kind of there, always there. But somehow it is one of those experiences, on the list, one of those, but not as prominent as in integral yoga. In integral yoga, it becomes the leader, the major purpose of the whole evolution of consciousness, the formation of the individual supreme.
Vladimir, is the psychic being then a formation of nature itself? Does it come from outside nature, or is it always there since eternity, or is it something that comes in us as we grow in our being over many lives?
It is evolving, yes. Aurobindo says it is the portion of the Jivatma which is not evolving, unborn self. It's a projection of Jivatma which delegates out of itself this kind of presence here within the heart, which evolves and forms and learns how to be here, how to manage the mental, vital, and physical being, learning from them how to be here, to stay and to interact with them. and slowly illumining them, it changes the whole nature. And once the nature is receptive enough, bridged enough with the inner, it can come forward and lead the whole nature overtly, openly, forward.
Okay, thank you.
Does it mean that the psychic, as it evolves, it's also like it's divine's essence, and when it's in us and it's evolving, then it's knowing us, and when it's becoming our own, like our personified divine. Is it?
Yes, it is. It is personified or individualized supreme. It grows, it becomes stronger. Then once it is in front, it has to be this next, as you know, transformation will be spiritual transformation. Actually, what we have in the Veda, it is constantly spiritual transformation. The gods are invoked, the powers, the universal powers are invoked to come down and to help Yajamana. Yajamana is this psychic entity, to grow and to become stronger, to occupy more and more space, within himself and without himself. So this constant interaction between the Yajamana calling to the universal powers to help him grow is the process of evolution. This is the best description of evolution of consciousness. Yes, all right, here we are. So the gods, even Varuna and Mitra and Aryaman, light thee utterly, the ancient messenger, all wealth that mortal conquers by thee, and by the Agni only we can conquer the wealth, and the wealth is always spiritual wealth in the Veda. O Agni, who to thee has given himself, I would add, because there is no object, who has given everything, not only himself, but everything he has in his possessions. And then, Mandrohota, Grahapatir, Agne Duto Visham Asi, Tuve Vishva Samgatani Vrata Dhruva, Yani Deva Akarinvata. Thou art the rapturous priest of the sacrifice, Mandra Hota, and master of this house, Grahapatih, and the envoy of creatures, Duta Visham. We spoke about Vish, peoples. Vish, those who entered this manifestation. We are all those who entered into the darkness. We entered into this night. Yes, night is not our beginning nor our end. We come to her from this supernal light. By light we live, and to the light we go. This is from Savitri. So we are all Vish. We all entered here into this darkness to transform it into the divine property. So Agni, you are the messenger of all those who entered here. Tuve Vishva Samgatani Vrata Dhruva. Tuve, it's Vedic word. In you, in thee, are met together, Samgatani, coming together, all the steadfast laws, Vratani, Vishvani, of action. Vrata is always vrit, from rotating, from the action. Dhruva, the laws, steadfast laws, steady, fixed formations of action. Yani Deva Akrenbata, which the gods created. O Agni, you are the ecstatic invoker of the gods, the lord of the house, the messenger of the people. It is in you that all the steady establishments for the right action are met together. which the gods have created to support us on the path. So there is a lot of support for us created by the gods. That's why we need them to help us out, to help Yajamana, to use those devices and those tools to grow and to occupy and to conquer the darkness, the inconscient, the absence of consciousness, to become aware in every being, in everything in this manifestation. And then, Tuve id Agni subhage Yavishthya, here it comes Yavishthya, which Dag was mentioning. Vishvam ahuyate havich satvam no adya sumana utaparam yakshi devan suvirya. It is in thee, O Agni, young and mighty, because thou art rich in joy, that every offering is cast. Therefore, do thou today and hereafter perfect in mind, perfect of mind, offer to the gods perfected energies. Suviryani. So yeah, go through my interpretation and word by word. It is indeed in you, O flame, that all the offerings are offered. Huyate havich, Vishvam. Interesting formulation. Vishvam havich. Every offering, or all offering, or universal offering, or universe as offering is offered. Yeah? We can translate even in this way. Or ever young and strong, Yavishthya, the strongest and the youngest. In you, Tuve, who is of the supreme joy, Subhage, in you who has the perfect joy. Or sharing, Bhaga is joy of sharing. Again, sharing is important. Yeah, the very delight comes from the sharing. This is also inbuilt characteristic of delight. There is delight only can be achieved through sharing. If sharing is not there, the delight cannot really be there. Delight is recognized only when you can share it, can be shared with you. That's why we want to be loved. We want to love. Yes, we want to constantly share the delight. Otherwise, you have delight, with whom would you share? That was the purpose why the divine created this world. He was alone and he was nobody to share his delight with. So he wanted that sharing to appear. That's why he created the universe. I was carried away a bit. Satvam no adya sumana utaparam. Therefore do thou today and hereafter aparam. Such are you of us today, of the perfect mind, and always after this sacrifice the perfected energies of ours to the gods. Yakshi Devan Suviryani, perfected energies, perfected powers. Interesting idea of perfect power. The power is perfect or perfected only when it is charged with consciousness. This is also the idea of the Veda. It must be enlightened, and once it is enlightened, it becomes perfected.
Vladimir, this
Yeah.
perfected energies could also mean, like, when everything is aligned, when there is attention, when there is what they call it seeing.
The truth is everywhere. Yes, they are aligned properly. They worked dharmically in their own place what they are supposed to do. Yeah? And that means in accordance with the truth.
Yeah, because the perfect mind, I was wondering, ordinary mind, like mind, it's so far away. So what it must take to reach that.
Yeah, he is Sumanas. He has the perfect mind. Now, this is a Vedic word. You will not find it in post-Vedic literature. Sumati, Sumanas. Sumanas you will find only in the classical tongue as the flower. Flower is Sumanas. Only in the flower it is left, this perfect mind. In the human beings, it's not there anymore. So it has something to do with, we spoke about this, yes? Sumati, Anumati, and Pramati, these three terms of the Veda. Sumati or Sumanas is that which combines the quest and offer and answer, the aspiration and the answer to the aspiration. When they join together, it's like it becomes a perfect mind. So it can achieve and realize everything. Whatever you call for, whatever you invoke will be realized in the best way. That means you possess Sumanas, perfect mind. Again, it's my interpretation. Yeah. So you may find another interpretation. I'm just kind of widening the scope of this thinking. We are still using the mind, yes, but we try to kind of soften it, make it more, suitable for thinking in a fluid way, embracing the spiritual reality. So Sattvam no adya sumana utaparam, and thereafter yakshi devan suviryani. Suviryani, suvirya, yes, Vedic word. The perfected powers to the gods you sacrifice. And then tam ghem itcha namasvinach upa svarajam asate hotrabhich agnim manushach sam indhate titirvan so atisridhach. He it is whom, as the self-ruler men who have attained submission, adore. By the greatness of the oblation, man light entirely Agni, when have broken through their opposers. This is Sri Aurobindo's translation. My interpretation, it's him indeed, the self-shining ruler that the self-giving people worship. Self-surrendering people worship, those who give themselves to the divine, with all the office of invocation, aspiration, and offering, hotrabhich, this is how I translated one word, with all the office of invocation, aspiration, and offering, the mental beings, manushach, the human beings, perfectly kindle the flame, sam indhate agnim, the divine will, the flame of the divine will. Having crossed over the obstacles, titirvan sach, ati sridhach. Hotra is an interesting word. I here put something, remember and offer, aspiration, rejection, surrender, the formulas of the integral yoga, just for us to think of. What is Hotra? So with the office of invocation, aspiration, and offering. So Hotra is actually that from Rudhu, Have, yeah, Juhoti, is to call and to offer. It's quite interesting. The two meanings in one word. to call and to offer. You don't call somebody without offering something. Yeah? Don't say, hey, come here. For what? You have something to offer. That's why you call. Otherwise, there is no calling. Hey, come here. I want to take something from you. There is not, it's something else. Yeah? It's a asuric calling. But the divine is always, when you call, invoke, you have something to give. So Hotra is that. So with Hotras, Agni, the Manushas, those who have mind, it's a very important vision of having mind, yeah? They kindle. So the mental beings perfectly kindle the flame of the divine will here, having crossed over all obstacles, the Tirvansach Atisredach. Remember and offer. Aspiration, rejection, surrender. These are the formulas of integral yoga. It's quite interesting. I'm here kind of using these to mention. Yes, Doug.
Is there a word missing after Agni in Sri Aurobindo's translation? It's like, did he mean to say Agni when they have broken through their opposers?
Let me see it. By the greatness of the oblation, man light entirely Agni when.
Or either instead of adding the word they, you could say who have broken through instead of when.
I think it is they, yes.
Okay.
Who have attained and who have broken, yeah? It's
Yes,
that
thank you.
who. Yes. Remember and offer. Aspiration, rejection, surrender. These are the formulas of integral yoga. Interesting. I just mention here because they fit very well. Remember and offer. Aspiration, rejection, surrender. Aspire, reject the obstacles, and surrender yourself or whatever you have to surrender to the divine. First aspire, then reject the obstacles because they will be immediately there to clog it, to block it, and then do your surrender. These are kind of two major slogans from integral yoga. Yes, you know them most probably. Those who are in integral yoga, they know them very well. Remember and offer. These are Sri Aurobindo's terms. Aspiration, rejection, surrender. There's another one. So Hotra, interesting. Hotra. Hotrabich Agni Manushach Samindhate. They kindle him, the Agni. With all the office of invocation, aspiration, and offering, this is Hotra, the mental beings, Manushach, perfectly kindle Samindhate, the flame of the divine will, Agnim, having crossed over the obstacles, the Tirvansach Atisredhach. It is whom as the self-ruler, man, that's Sri Aurobindo's, yes? Man who have attained submission adore. By the greatness of the oblation, man light entirely Agni, when have broken through their opposites. Tam Ghaim, yes, tam Ghem, Itra Namasvinach, Upasvarajyam Asate, Hotrabich Agni Manushach Sam Indhate, Titirvansach Atisredhach. Him indeed, thus Itra, in this way, Namasvinach, those who bring surrender, Upasvarajam asate, upasate, adore, with submission. Upasana from here is adoration. Adore Svarajam, the self-luminous one, the one who shines by himself, who doesn't need anybody to make himself shine. He has his own origin of light and force. Hotrabhich Agnim, with hotros, with offerings, Agnim, Manushach, the people, Sam Indhate, they kindle or perfectly kindle, Sam Indhate, Titirvansach Atisredhach, wanting or crossing or having broken through the opposites, Atisredhach, all the obstacles. It's him indeed, the self-shining ruler, that the self-giving, worshipping people worship with all the office of invocation, aspiration, and I would say, and surrender. The mental beings perfectly kindle the flame of the divine will, having crossed over all the obstacles. There is so much more meaning in it than we can really perceive. It just needs contemplation and diving deep, because these are the words which hit the core of our being. One can feel the presence within from these luminous words. Interesting word asate, upasate. Literally, root as means to sit. Yeah? Who sit literally asate, upaniya. Who sit near Svarajam, of the one who is self-ruling one, the Lord. So of the one who has his own rule, his own light. Raj is to rule and to shine, both. Yeah? To shine and to rule. Interesting. If we go deeper into the kind of subconscious thinking of these roots and words, we would see that they are really expressing something fundamental. And when you are the king Raja, Raja is the one who shines, who brings light into all the darkness, who makes the law of the divine everywhere. From Rudraj to flame, to shine. From here, Rajas also, the Guna Rajas, yeah, with flaming. And the king from here, this is the light which is illumining the darkness of our inconscient being, yeah, which brings the consciousness into action. And he is Upasvarajam Asate. They come, the man who attained submission, so to say, to the Svarajam, to the one who has his own light, who has his own rule, he flames from his own source. He's not flaming from any other source. He is the light of the divine. So all these kind of ideas are inbuilt in the words. If we start digging, we will find so much more than the words can convey. It's in him indeed, the self-shining ruler and the self-giving, that the self-giving people worship. Pasvarajam asate, upa asate, namasvinach, those who are bowing down or surrendering. Tam, him, indeed. Ita, in this way. Namasvinach, those who surrender. Upasvarajam asate, they approach and worship or make submission to the Svaraja, to the self-ruling and self-shining one. The avatar, the light, the immortal among mortals within us. There is a divine within us, and that is Agni, who is shining within the darkness. And it is to him we surrender, they surrender. Namasvina. It is whom as self-ruler man who have attained submission adore. By the greatness of the oblation man light entirely Agni, when have broken through their opposers. Hotrabhich, with the hotras Agni Manushach Samindate, the mental beings or human beings, kindle perfectly Samindhate, Titirvan Sachatis Redhach, crossing or wishing or crossing abroad, I will have to say, having crossed over the obstacles Atis Redhach. Broken through their opposers. Sri Aurobindo translates so beautiful. So it is he whom as self-ruler man who have attained submission adore, by the greatness of the oblation man light entirely Agni, when have broken through their opposers. So these opposers are withholding the flame of the divine within us. We don't see the divine in this manifestation until we break through, and then the divine is shining through. And that is the work of the sacrifice, to break through the opposers. And the opposers is the darkness which is withholding light and making it dim, not very bright. So the Agni is hidden within the darkness and has to be revealed. It's him indeed, the self-shining ruler, that the self-giving people worship with all the office of invocation, aspiration, and offering the mental beings, the human beings, perfectly kindle the flame of the divine will, having crossed over the obstacles. Titirvansach, crossing beyond Atisredhach, with all their obstacles, beyond all the obstacles. Okay, we can stop here.
Vladimir,
I'm sure that you're already kind of, I don't know where you are. Are you there still? Or you switched off already from all of these kind of luminous words, luminosity, shining and blazing light?
Vladimir, this is so good. I'm hearing your videos on Pashyanti, Madhyama, and Vaikhiri, and I'm trying to bring everything together. It's very, very difficult, but it's like exploring a new continent for me. Thank you very much, really. So good.
Yeah, this is the tradition which is, in spiritual sense, it's the highest in the world. Yeah, Vedic rishis, they started the whole Manvantara for us, brought this light down in this form of knowledge, which is packed, and Sri Aurobindo started to unpack it, and we all want to learn from it. We want to learn why we are here. What is all this world about? Yeah, it's not very clear what it is all about. Looking around, you don't understand what are we doing here altogether. So the answers are hidden there. They are answering to the very meaning of our life. Yeah, which is not just superficial meaning of self-enjoyment and that's it, because that is not the answer. It can't be the answer. We are moving somewhere, we are going somewhere. There is an evolution of consciousness, there is a growth of knowledge which we have to acquire. And the Veda plays its absolutely important role. It holds the anchor, it holds the purpose, the meaning of the whole Manvantara. If it would not be there, the whole thing would slowly disappear, as it disappeared in the West. Nobody knows what they are doing there. Just running for self-satisfaction. That's it. Yes, Doug. Yeah, I see you. You have to unmute yourself.
Sorry. Yeah, Tirthavamsa. Is this the same, the Titi, is that like partridge as in Taittiriya Upanishad? And Vamsa is like a race?
No.
Like racism?
It is one suffix.
Uh-huh.
Titirvan. Yes, it is from root 3, the one who crossed over.
Okay. So yeah, from 3 like Tariyate. Yeah. And the Vams is
it is a plural. For example, if you take with any one of this kind, it will be titirvan, titirvanso, titirvansaha, titirvansam, titirvanso, titirushaha. It will be ush in the weak form.
So it's the whole word together is like an adjective, those who have crossed over.
Yes, it is a perfect participle. Like Jagmivans, Jagmivanso, Jagmivansa, Jagmivansam, Jagmivanso, Jagmushaha, Jagmusha, Jagmivadbhyam, Jagmivadbhi, the same. It is this Vans, Vat, and Ush, 3 forms.
Okay.
It's just Sanskrit grammar.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Paritu.
I just, when we're talking about sacrifice in the communities here, can you hear me?
Yes.
In the communities here, the indigenous communities, so they worship inanimate and animate deities, and they do sacrifices, like sacrifice of the animal, and they say it's for the deities. So I'm just trying to figure out what that means and where is it going and what's happening. Like I read a couple of books written by anthropologists, but I'm really not able to I don't know.
The animal sacrifices were the beginning of the process of it is very ancient sacrifices before the psychic was discovered, the flame in the heart. But when the flame in the heart was discovered, the whole shift took place. It is mentioned in even in the Judaism, in Abraham religions. Yeah? So Abraham was offering his son as a sacrifice. You remember, he wanted already to kill him for the god. That is the sacrifice of nature, yes, which is preceding to the sacrifice of the heart. And then he hears the voice of the Lord telling him that he doesn't need the body of his son. He needs the lamb, pure lamb. And pure lamb is the symbol of the psychic being, of love. Love in the heart, flame in the heart. And this was the shift in the religions from these crude sacrifices of the body, of the nature, of the energies of the mental, vital, and physical energies, to the deity, towards the love, psychic love in the heart. And in the RigVeda, we find both. And Agni is mentioned as Yajatra in this form, as Idiya in this other form, as beloved in the heart, and as Yajatra, worthy of sacrifice. Of sacrifice of all the nature can be sacrificed to him alone, because that is the flame hidden in nature, rising from nature. That is the divine breaking through the darkness, wanting to come to its fulfillment, transforming the whole nature. So these 2 elements are there. I do not know whether I even answer your question. Maybe I got carried away.
No, I did understand certain things, but I'm just wondering, like, there are these shamans who talk to the the deities in different consciousness. Like they get into the trance and they converse, and then the sacrifice happens. So, is it that the deity in that trance is not able to communicate, or I
This
don't
is
know
the,
how?
the ancient form of the sacrifice of the body, of the nature, shamanic cults. This is all that ancient forms of the sacrifice of the body. And when Abraham wanted to sacrifice his son, it was the ancient form of the sacrifice. Yeah, but there is a new form, a psychic being, love to the divine. You don't need, as the Lord says to Abraham, I don't want the body of your son. I want your love in the heart. Can you give me your love in the heart instead? So this was a shift. It's a paradigm shift. It's a big shift in the whole tradition, in the whole evolution of consciousness. It's a huge change. Yeah.
So they
So
will.
love is more valuable, as it were, than the nature. Though in the final kind of achievement, both have to be transformed. Yeah? Love is transforming nature, but it has to be offered, and we see it in the integral yoga. The psychic being is that which is doing the sacrifice. Yes, yajamana. It is he who will come, or it rather than he, comes to the front and leads the whole nature to the spiritual transformation and finally to the supramental transformation. But it is psychic being which has to be uh, reaching the surface, yeah, come to the front.
So they have to go through this whole cycle and this whole time to completely understand about psychic being. Like,
Right, absolutely. The ancient forms of the sacrifice were without psychic. It was more the nature. The psychic was not yet formed. We spoke about this. The psychic got formed later in time, much later. The whole bhakti movement comes later. You can see it even in Indian tradition. When do you have bhakti movement? Kabir, Mirabai, they come later, 1,000 years back only. First bhaktas appear, and that is actually the psychic movement. But before, even in the Upanishads, you will not find much of this. Or in the Vedas even more, very little. It's only mentioning that Agni is approached as Yajatra and Idya, as Yajatra as worthy of sacrifice, that is the first form, sacrifice of nature, and Idya as beloved, and that is the psychic flame. So these two are the elements of all our transformation. I do not know whether it makes sense to you, but it should, because if you studied integral yoga, these two elements are there.
yeah, that's what. So I've been reading and I've been doing sessions with you, and then I go to the village and I get really confused at times, and I'm like, but then now, like you said, I'm trying to understand and process
Yeah,
how it
we have
is.
to transform the nature, and there are elements of the divine in nature, and there is the agent, the psychic, the flame within the heart, which is the spark of the divine, which has to become a being. Now, that spark or that flame is not yet a being, it's not yet self conscious. So, with this long period of sacrificial offerings, it grows into being, becomes self conscious, and once it becomes, it can be bridged and brought to the surface. This is the whole idea of integral yoga. Once it reaches the surface, it can lead the whole nature, the mental, vital, and physical nature, overtly, openly, directly lead them to the transformation. Then there will be no mistake anymore.
So one can also look at it like this, that whatever hardships one has to go through, it's to help them shift from the ancient way of sacrifice to coming back to the psychic being. Like I'm talking about in the context of the indigenous communities. I see a lot of things happening around them, and a lot of things changing, a lot of transitions happening. So like this whole system is changing, and it's under transition. And I don't know what's the larger plan, but it looks like it's somehow all the pain and everything which is happening, it's possibly leading them somewhere. And yeah.
Right. We are in a constant transition. This one has to understand or admit. Sri Aurobindo says the human being is a transitional being. Man is a transitional being. We are not the final product of nature. We are the ever advancing pilgrim, in the words of the Veda, the ever advancing pilgrim. We are moving forward, forward, forward. This is a journey in front of us. We are constantly changing our nature. This is the purpose. We came here for this, to change it, to make it the divine. And we slowly and gradually make it the divine. We are conquering our own world and settling there the divine presence. And this is the vision of the sacrifice, the meaning of the sacrifice. Is to constantly make it more and more sacred, the nature. The very nature of the divine has to become totally divine, the divine life. And all the processes we find in the RigVeda, they are hidden, they are in the symbolic language, but we want to unfold them and to understand better. Yeah, somebody was saying.
Yeah, Vladimir, this obstacles, the word that came up in that class, is just that, right? The resistance that is within to change. When Prithu was mentioning the pain that we are going through during this transition, is nothing but that, right?
Yes. Every time we achieve certain level, that level becomes the obstacle for the next level. It becomes the stage, the step in the staircase, and at the same time the obstacle. Obstacle because it fixes certain achievement, and that achievement, which was first the achievement, became the obstacle later. And this is our constant progress. We have to overcome all our achievements.
I think everything which we dislike or like becomes a problem. Like once we latch onto something, be it any emotion, be it happiness or be it insecurity, like it's just coming right now, that even insecurity starts bothering when we're latching too hard onto it. If we manage to surrender, and then it just becomes easy.
Absolutely, yeah. Surrendering it all your obstacles, all your achievements, all your realizations, everything has to be offered to the divine, because they are not final. They are just the means of our journey. We are ever advancing pilgrim. This is the beautiful image of the Veda. Man is ever advancing pilgrim. And this pilgrimage is not ending. It's ever there. We will go on and on. Somebody even asked Sri Aurobindo, would there be, if we would achieve the supermind and realize immortality, will there be any evolution of consciousness after? If we achieve everything, we become immortals. And he says, yes, there is always something to learn from the infinity. We will move from light to greater light. So this journey will never end. So ever advancing pilgrim. So be ready to go. There is no retirement plan, so forget about it. And this is the beautiful vision of the Veda. Nobody offers you something to sit on and to, Mother even somewhere says, the moment you feel that you achieved finally something, be careful, because from that moment you start degrading and falling back. You should never be satisfied with whatever you achieved. Move forward. There is no achievement. It's just constant moving forward. It's a beautiful spirit, ever young, like Agni. He's ever young. ever. That means he's never old. He's never tired to do his work. And we do not know what is offered to us by the divine in the future. What do we know? Whom we become in the future. Great. Okay, it's over time already, too much. Okay, I close with mantra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santo Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. It's a bit like our classes are a bit like madness of some kind, yeah? Some kind of ecstatic madness of, we are kind of piling up things, luminosity upon luminosity. Mhm. And
It's so hard to contain at time, like these sessions. Oh God, it just feels like.
yeah, we have to go back, but this is the RigVeda. Can you imagine if you read the RigVeda and you feel this all the time, what it could be? It's a transformative power of our life. It was given to humanity by India. India itself is built on this, yeah, on this vision. Everything which comes later comes from this. Great. All right. So see you then next time. Namaste.
Vladimir,
Yeah.
there's 150th birth anniversary of Sri Aurobindo. Are you doing anything there at your center?
Right. We do.
Okay. We are having a celebration over here in Delhi.
Yes. So you mean to say that we should meet next time? Yes. Over.
No. Of course not. That's on Monday, right?
Oh, it's on Monday.
Monday
Oh
TV
yeah.
class.
Yeah. We have. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just ask nothing.
Oh yeah. Definitely. We definitely have. We're preparing for it. It's such a big thing. It's a
Yes.
huge 150 years. Yeah. Great.
Okay.
So yes, so I wish you the best celebration for 150th, and see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.